Good morning to one and all. Today's session is based on biological significance of phospholipids. Topics to be discussed are phospholipids, its definition, general structure of phospholipids, detailed classification and structure of phospholipids, functions of phospholipids, biological significance of phospholipids. Getting into the introduction, phospholipids, also known as phosphatids, it is a complex lipid or compound lipid. These are the compounds containing, in addition to fatty acids and glycerol, phosphoric acid, nitrogen bases, and other substituents. These important lipids are widely distributed in plants, animals, and bacteria. They are the major constituents of cell membrane but are also found in circulating fluids. This is the schematic representation of a phospholipid. It consists of a glycerol backbone attached with two fatty acids and also a phosphate group which is attached with an alcohol. Then phospholipids. Phospholipids are most abundant membrane lipids. They serve primarily as the structural components of membranes. As their name implies, phospholipids contain phosphorus in the form of phosphoric acid groups. In phospholipids, two of the hydroxyl groups in glycerol are linked to fatty acids, while the third hydroxyl group is linked to phosphoric acid. Phospholipids can be obtained via diet and some synthesized by our body as well. Phospholipids are amphipathic. General structure of phospholipids. Phospholipid consists of a hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail. Hydrophilic head consists of a glycerol and a phosphate. Hydrophobic tail consists of unsaturated or saturated fatty acids. Hydrophilic head is polar in nature, which is known as polar head. Hydrophobic tails are non-polar in nature, known as non-polar tails. This is the general structure of a phospholipid. As you can see here, hydrophilic head consists of a phosphate and a glycerol, and hydrophobic tail consists of the saturated fatty acid and unsaturated fatty acid. Moving on to the classification of phospholipids, Folch and Sperry in 1955 have classified phospholipids into phosphoglycerides, also known as glycerophospholipids, which is backbone is alcohol, that is glycerol, and a phosphospincosides, spincophospholipids. Its backbone is also an alcohol known as spincosine. This classification of phospholipids was based on the type of alcohol present. Then another classification of phospholipids, example of glycerophospholipids are phosphatidic acid, lecithin, cephalin, phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylthreonine, phosphatidylinositol, phosphatidylglycerol, cardiolipin, plasminogen, a platelet activating factor. Example of a spincophospholipid is a sphingomyelin. Structure of phospholipid. Phosphatidic acid. Phosphatidic acid is the simplest phospholipid. It is the precursor of all other phospholipids. The figure of a phosphatidic acid is shown here. Then the lecithin. These are the most abundant group of phospholipids in the cell membrane. Lecithin, phosphatidylcholine, nitrogen base is choline. In a dipalmitoyl lecithin, fatty acids are palmitoyl. Cephalin also known as a phosphatidylethanolamine, and nitrogen base is ethanolamine. Phosphatidylserine, nitrogen base is serine, amino acid attached in this group. Phosphatidylthreonine. Threonine is the amino acid attached in this group. It is the nitrogen base. Phosphatidylinositol. Inositol is attached to the phosphatidic acid to give phosphatidylinositol, important component of a cell membrane. The action of certain hormones are mediated through phosphatidylinositol. Phosphatidylglycerol. Glycerol is attached to the phosphatidic acid to form phosphatidylglycerol. Then the cardiolipin. It was first isolated from the heart muscles. Glycerol glycerol is attached with the two phosphatidic acids to form cardiolipin, important component of inner mitochondrial membrane. Plasminogen. When fatty acids is attached by either linkage at a C1 of a glycerol in a glycerophospholipids, the resultant compound is plasminogen, a platelet activating factor (PAF), responsible for platelet aggregation, a mediator in inflammation and allergic responses. Sphingomyelin. Sphingosine is the backbone. It is a long chain alcohol with 18 carbon atoms. A nitrogen base is choline. It is a sphingophospholipid. Then talking about the functions of phospholipids, along with structural component of membrane, regulate membrane permeability. Lecithin, cephalin, a cardiolipin are present in electron transport chain, assist in cell respiration, amphipathic nature, combined with polar and non-polar compounds. Absorption of fat from intestine, lipoprotein synthesis, lipid transport, LDL, VLDL, HDL, prevent fatty liver, regarded as lipotropic factors, synthesis of prostaglandins or prostacyclins or thromboxanes, phospholipids, arachidonic acids, eicosanoids. Biological significance of phospholipids. Phospholipids are the important constituents of a lipid bilayer and cell membrane. Phospholipid bilayer or bimolecular sheet, amphipathic nature, PAF, platelet activating factor, responsible for platelet aggregation, mediator in inflammation and allergic responses. Defect in cardiolipin leads to mitochondrial dysfunction. Cardiolipin is responsible for antigenicity. Phospholipids are easily oxidized due to the presence of unsaturated fatty acids and hence exhibit antioxidative activities. Lecithin, a phosphatidylcholine, acts as a reservoir for choline. Choline helps in nerve impulse transmission and transmetallation. Biological significance of phospholipids. Continuation. Sphingomyelin is responsible for the production of a myelin sheath. It is rich in axons and especially found in a central nervous system. Phospholipids provide arachidonic acid for the synthesis of eicosanoids. Phospholipids are very good emulsifying agents. Emulsify for digestion and absorption of dietary fats. Since phospholipids are amphipathic molecules, they form micelles in water. Cephalin helps in blood clotting. Phosphatidylinositol act as second messenger. They are involved in the action of some hormone. They act as lung surfactants. Dipalmitoyl lecithin. Deficiency of this dipalmitoyl lecithin leads to RDS, respiratory distress syndrome. Increased unsaturated fatty acids and phospholipids led to the increase in membrane fluidity. Straight hydrocarbon tail of saturated fatty acids interact strongly with each other, decreasing membrane fluidity. Phospholipids in the mitochondria maintain the conformation of ETZ components and the cellular respiration. Phospholipids help in the digestion and absorption of fats and fat-soluble nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids from the intestine. Phospholipids helps in the synthesis of lipoproteins, which is a combination of lipid plus proteins. And phospholipids prevent accumulation of fats in liver, which is known as lipotropic factors. Phospholipids help in the transport of cholesterol and thus help in the removal of cholesterol from the body by dissolving in bile acids. They prevent the deposition of cholesterol as cholesterol stones biliary calculi, since they are good hypotropic substances. When one sperm enters the ovum, the membrane permeability changes. Along with that, membrane phospholipid composition also changes. As a result, membrane becomes more impermeable to the second sperm and thus the polyspermy can be prevented. Can study the cellular physiology by the distribution of phospholipids. In normal cells, phosphatidylserine is present inside the membrane. In apoptotic cell, phosphatidylserine is present outside the membrane. As orientation is flipped from inner side to outer side, it is a hallmark of apoptosis. Liposomes are tiny vesicles made up of a phospholipid which can be filled with drugs and deliver drugs for cancer and other diseases. Liposomes were discovered by Bangham. Hydrophobic load and hydrophilic loads are also possible in terms of liposomes. Then summary, we have discussed what are phospholipids, basic structure of phospholipid, classification of phospholipids, that is two types, glycerophospholipids and sphingospholipids, functions of phospholipids and biological significance of phospholipids. These are the references. Thank you.